Good day, good day, good day, my YouTube people from New York, California, wherever you're at. I have a quick question. It's Saturday morning. It's a little hot here in New York. Um, I guess my question to people is, have you had to deal with job loss lately? I know everyone is saying jobs are back. Um, I don't see no jobs for us. I mean, not here in New York. Um, every time you apply for one, they tell you that either you're overqualified once you go in, um, or they just make up something stupid. You know, it's crazy. I have a whole bunch of different types of background skills. I was a car mechanic. I know how to work on big trucks, construction. Um, I'm actually a certified chef too. Pretty much anything you could do, I can almost do it. Um, I grew up very, very poor here on the East Coast, so I always had to make do with what I got, which made it so I was very crafty with figuring things out. Um, but I've noticed lately that when you go in for a job, right, they're looking for, I'm going to say young people, and what's the way I can not get kicked off of YouTube? Um, I'm going to say, what's the word they say? Undocumented people. And I know this because I lost my job to one. Yeah. So I was told I was getting promoted and to train this kid and show him how to, grease heavy machinery, stuff like that. And the crazy thing is, I worked for a place. It was an organic recycling place, which is funny because, you think organic recycling, right? You think that these recycling plants, they're supposed to be good for the environment, right? You literally all day what I did was, well, what I was supposed to do was pick plastic from rocks, right? And then and wood, and they would turn it into mulch and item, and stuff like that. um, so my site had four laborers, everyone else was driving loaders, right? But they had me, once they found out I had a mechanical background, all that, they used all that to their advantage. Had me go here, had me go there, whatever. I didn't care because I was just grateful I was working, right? The problem came when the main boss, the guy who owns the place, inherited it, never has gotten his hands dirty in his life, came down and, uh, they had me train this kid saying I was going to move up and gave me a new company shirt a week prior, everything. Then I get a phone call at the end of the day saying they're going to be moving in a different direction. I said, well, what does that mean? yeah. So pretty much I was fired. So I told the bosses, I'm going to call him Minion, Zach there, that if you're gonna fire me, you gotta come in and do it face to face, like a man, especially since you just looked me in my eyes and told me I'm training this kid that one didn't even speak English. He couldn't even understand what I would say. And then he would go around telling people that his, private area. And I don't play games like that. All right. Uh, I'm a fun dude, I love having fun, but I can be a serious guy too. I just don't like being disrespected, and I don't like disrespecting people, and I don't like seeing people disrespected, you know. So he would do that to other people, and they just allowed it, you know. But the craziness is that when they fired me, and the boss, his minion came in, I said, what do you mean you're going in a different direction? And he told me come upstairs and let's talk, right? And he's like, I appreciate the work you did here, Al, but you're walking across the compound a little slow, and I said slow. I said I got a titanium rod in my leg, and one, that's not even true. I said you have all the other laborers just picking plastic, whatever. I drive the fuel trucks around. I move the loaders around. I do all types of things. I'm repairing stuff with my own stuff from home because you guys don't even have the parts. So I made the mistake of thinking that a job actually cared for me. Don't make the mistake and think that HR is your friends or these bosses are your friends, because the ground boss, James, wouldn't even stick up for me like, oh no, it's not that Albert's over there not picking the plastic off of the ground. It's the fact that he's running around, fixing this and doing the fuel for everyone. So once I explained that to Zach, and I told him just stop BSing me. He told me the truth, pretty much, that the direction they're going in, my life and my kid's life was worth 50 cents an hour to these people. They could pay this kid 50 cents an hour less. That's what your life is worth to these corporations. 50 cents. And so I started questioning it more, and he pretty much told me, he actually did tell me. He said, just leave it alone, and we're guaranteeing your unemployment. Just keep your mouth shut, it will guarantee your unemployment and a good reference. My unemployment is $167 a week in New York State. What can I do with that? What can you do with that? And then every job I'm trying to go for, they're not hiring. Well, they're not hiring us. They're not hiring Americans. Black, white, whatever. It don't matter no more. All right? Also, they wanted me to teach the kid English. So I'm just wondering if anyone out there has experienced this as well. In New York, California, any other states. And listen, I know New York is New York. I get it. I know how New York is. I've lived here my whole life. Okay. But I think for myself. I don't let no one think for me. If you look in my bio, you'll see how I grew up. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. A father unalived himself from what I know when I was 3. And had a mother just kept having kids. So I grew up in the system. So that's how I was able to get an education and get certifications and stuff. The system paid for my certifications. And those certifications mean nothing because these jobs won't hire. So, where are these jobs at? Where's all these jobs? Because you can go on things like Indeed and ZipRecruiter and all that, right? Let me tell you something about all those jobs on sites like Indeed. All those jobs that they have you apply for, right? Like if you go try to get any type of assistance once you lose your job, the same system that me and you paid into when we were working, that if we go try to get help from, that they gave these people 5-star hotels at and all that, they want you to look for work at their office 35 hours a week. That's a work week, and they put you on the site, Indeed, and most of those jobs on that site are not even jobs. They're old jobs that the owners were too lazy to take down, so they just still keep them up. And so really all you're doing is spend 35 hours a week doing nothing there. Temp agencies ain't hiring no more. Job Corps in New York State, as far as I know, I don't know about any other state, but they're shutting it down, or they did shut it down already. So, it's hard out here, man. It's hard out here, and I have, I have a 4-year-old, autistic daughter. That's rough. I have a 19-year-old, that he's a genius, man. He's a genius, and he's finding it, rough out here, and it is. And then I have a 24-year-old son. He's not my biological son, but he's my son. I'm 41. I've been raising him since I was 21. I got out of New York State system when I was 21. I met my wife. She already had a kid, and I took him on. That was my choice. I chose, to be his father. And I don't regret that choice. I wish I could have, I could do more, for them. I think as dads we all do, and I think mothers out there, struggling at it, wish they can too. It really sucks, when you pass a pizza place and you can't take your kid in for a slice of pizza. It brings back memories for me as a kid. I remember, always wanting to go to Burger King or something like that. Couldn't go, stuff like that. One thing we've always made sure of is that our kids were able to go on school trips and all that. My wife grew up a little, not rich, but, I would say working class. I didn't even grow up working class. My mom, I'm first generation American on my mom's side. I'm Hungarian and, Cherokee. Not like 1/8 of Cherokee like everyone else is. My father was Cherokee. My father was old when he had me. He was, in his 50s when he had me. But, so yeah, just let me know, if you guys are having trouble, getting jobs too where you're at, because I want to know where these jobs are and when this economy is going to start booming again. Maybe it's booming for the rich people, but it ain't booming for us here on the ground. And I feel like the people up in office, are so out of touch with us on the ground, us real workers out here. We're losing our livelihoods. We're losing, our rentals. It used to be, not even in my lifetime, where you rent a place so you can save money, so you can own a house one day. You can't own a home now. You can't. And to even try to go get credit, it's hard. Because the banks, like, if you need credit to get credit. And if you grew up how I grew up, every poor person knows what happens, when you're younger. What happens? Your parents put bills in your name. By the time you're 5, you have an electric bill in your name. Uh, and that's just facts. That's true facts. I probably had so many bills in my name that when I got out the system, I had to call up all these places and be like, look, man, I was raised in the New York State system. But let me know where you're at, right? Please subscribe, and I encourage people, start a YouTube channel. Even if it's just to talk, try to find people like you. I'm not trying to get famous. I'm wearing this mask because I'm going to be talking about things that I've been through, things that are going on. You can find me. You'll be able to find me. I'm sure someone will unmask me, whatever. None of that matters. It's just there's going to be things that I'm going to be talking about that I'm going on. And look, I don't care if you're left wing, right wing. I'm so tired of that type of stuff. We got to come together, and we need jobs. We need jobs because they've turned us against each other, man. Left wing, right wing, same bird. Red versus blue. Think about it. They literally turned us into Bloods versus Crips. And of course some things aren't right, some things are, but I'm gonna just stay out that type of stuff. My goal is trying to make sure that the working man and working woman, can raise their kids. We should be able to make something that our kids want to eat. We shouldn't have to be like, hey baby, I'm sorry, we can't eat this tonight. And it's something so simple, but that's our reality. That's the reality of us out here struggling. And for you people out there that have these good jobs and all that, hey, I salute you. But that ain't some of our realities. Some of us don't have those opportunities. And I know you say go out there and make the opportunity happen. It don't work like that. It really don't. Some things happen by chance. I used to have the car clubs, all that stuff. But times change, people change, and now us as people have less control over our own lives. It's just what it is. Hey, let me know where you're at. Let me know if it's if the job market is booming where you are, and let me know how you're handling everything. And please subscribe. If you're starting out a small YouTube channel and you subscribe to me, just hit subscribe in the comment section. Write subscribe. If you're subscribing, then I'll subscribe back to you. Let's make each other grow. And maybe we can make money off this, just telling our realities, and maybe we could see each other grow. Maybe we could see each other talk from about how hard things are to how much things are getting better. All right, let's try to grow together. All right, salute y'all and respect.